So by now, most people have probably heard the news that the Society of St. Pius X, or the SSPX, intends to consecrate new bishops this coming summer, which, if you know anything about them and their history, is something a lot of people have been anticipating, especially since Pope Leo became the Pope, because they only have 2 bishops left to ensure that they have the ability to ordain future priests, which that was the big concern that forced a confrontation with the Holy See back in 1988. Because back then, they only had 1 bishop, who was Marcel Lefebvre, who was advancing in years and who was negotiating, or he was trying to negotiate with Rome to ensure that he had a successor to carry on with their mission. But unfortunately, those negotiations failed, and Lefebvre went ahead and consecrated 4 bishops without Rome's permission, which resulted in Pope St. John Paul II's declaration that they had incurred excommunication. But eventually those excommunications were lifted by Pope Benedict XVI in the hopes that they could be restored to full communion with the Roman Pontiff and the rest of the Church. But that restoration wasn't fully realized at the time, and that brings us to the current events in which they've said they're going to consecrate more bishops, which is all very reminiscent of 1988 all over again. And as a result, there are a lot of eyes on the whole affair waiting to see if they get excommunicated again. And there's renewed interest from, the peanut gallery speculating if they are schismatics or canonically ambiguous or unambiguous, and what the implications of attending one of their masses might be. In other words, it seems like everyone has an opinion about the SSPX and aren't afraid to share it with everyone else. Which brings me to a question that was nagging me after the recent news broke and everyone started weighing in, which is, why is there so much interest in the SSPX? I can understand that there's some interest, especially for those who are adjacent to them in the traditionalist movement, or for people who have direct interactions with them because, say, friends or family are members or are attached to the society. But for the rest of us who don't have any kind of investment and who aren't directly affected by their activities, why the acute interest in them? For example, I bet, if I posted a poll on one of my social media accounts asking whether the SSPX were guilty of schism or not, I'd get a lot of emphatic and highly polarized responses. I know I would. I bet if I hosted a debate on my channel about them, it would get a lot of views. So why? Why does everyone have such strong interest and opinions about them, and why are they so eager to air those opinions? Which reminded me of the fact that there was a popular but derisive phase in the 19th century that was used to describe, urban middle-class people, reasonably educated people who were seen as endlessly talking, debating, moralizing, and reacting to the news of the day without bearing any responsibility for it. They were called the chattering class, which was a phrase used by people with actual real authority who did have real responsibility with respect to the subject that the rest of these people were only idly chattering about in order to form fashionable opinions and to give the appearance that their opinions were of some consequence, when in fact they were nothing more than opinions. And the main critique of it all was that the chattering class mistook being informed about headlines for being wise, and that their opinions somehow gave them a legitimate stake in the affairs in question when they were, in fact, again, just opinions. And because of this tendency, they were seen as needlessly fueling the propaganda and sensationalist media who preyed upon this insatiable appetite for being informed with no way to meaningfully contribute to the affairs in question. And I couldn't help but be struck by this same sense when I saw social media explode with opinions and chattering debate recently when the news of the SSPX's intentions to consecrate bishops broke to the public. It seemed to be the trending topic for days on Twitter, or X if you're a modernist, and the temperature of those conversations was well beyond ignition point. So you had Catholics denouncing and condemning one another over a controversy that none of them had any real ability to resolve, and frankly, which is beyond the competency of the vast majority of people weighing in. How many of those people are bishops, bishops who actually have to make decisions with respect to the SSPX conducting masses in their own diocese, for example. How many of them are canon lawyers, like advising people like the Pope or other bishops about how to respond to the actions of the society that they promised to take this summer with the consecration of bishops? And even for people who do have those competencies, how does weighing in and debating with other random Catholics on the internet help the situation or bring it to any kind of meaningful resolution? And I understand the inclination to weigh in like this. Back in the day, everyone had an opinion about whether O.J. Simpson did it or not. And most people, in my experience, were willing to volunteer that opinion. And that's because it was a mostly harmless opinion. The consequences of being right or wrong were insignificant, and none of us were under some kind of obligation to submit to the authority of the jury and its decision about the case on pain of sin. And our current culture encourages this kind of opinion on anything and everything because it keeps us engaged in the media machine and helps sell advertising at the end of the day. So we get used to thinking that our opinions are important enough to express, but they're mostly benign. It's not going to hurt anybody. But they really aren't. And our attention and contributions don't actually contribute to any kind of meaningful or positive resolutions to most of the controversies that we're fascinated with. So given the vast majority of Catholics offering their hottest takes on the SSPX don't even have any real contact with them, why does it matter so much to them whether they're in schism or not? And what good comes from wagering your peace of mind, your peace of soul, and the charity you owe to your brothers and sisters in the faith so that you can invest yourself in an unresolved controversy? And that's a big question everyone feels the need to address. Are they in schism or not? I could throw out my opinion and it might feel satisfying, at least for me, to do so, but ultimately, I, as some random layperson, not a canon lawyer and not a tribunal judge or a magisterial authority, can't say definitively if they are. But everyone with a social media account believes they are capable of rendering that kind of judgment, which is, again, why they spent the better part of the past week asserting their opinion as if it's fact all over social media. And the other side did the same thing, and nobody accomplished anything other than further exacerbating the wounds and divisions that already exist. It's the same thing with something like heresy. I've lost count of the number of times I've seen someone accuse someone else of being a heretic on social media. Take someone like Father James Martin. Is he a heretic? I certainly disagree with his many contributions to a variety of questions. But do I have the authority to definitively say he's a heretic and to say that to someone else as if it's authoritative? The answer is no, because that's not how these things are defined. At best, reasonably informed people can say that certain things are material heresy in principle, but they can't say that someone is formally or canonically a heretic unless the competent ecclesial authorities have said so. But that doesn't stop countless self-appointed inquisitors on social media from making those kinds of definitive statements, even about their own superiors like clergy and bishops. So in the aggregate of a cost-benefit analysis, my question is, what are the benefits of making pronouncements about the SSPX? Because I can certainly tell you what the costs are. St. Thomas Aquinas tells us that the number one reason people are discouraged from joining the faith or the church is the bad example of other Christians who behave in ways that are contrary to the teachings that they supposedly uphold and adhere to. In other words, they see Christians saying one thing but doing another. Our Lord said, "They'll know we are his followers and his disciples by how we love one another," in John 13:35. The controversy over the SSPX and whether or not they should be excommunicated or whether or not they're schismatics is a controversy that doesn't require the average Catholic to weigh in on. And because it's so controversial, not to mention sensitive for people that are personally invested, like members of the society, the risks are that you're only going to stir up vitriol and make the church look pretty bad in the process. And I'd say that's mostly what I saw going on social media, with everyone chiming in and denouncing anyone who disagrees with them. And I can only imagine what that looks like to outsiders looking on. First, the controversy to them must appear to be so peculiar because they're not familiar with these concepts. And so it's so subtle that it must seem like it hardly is worth getting upset about. And secondly, the fact that Catholics seem so prone to descending into hysterics over it probably appears to them like our appetite for controversy and conflict far outweighs its necessity. And who wants to join a community like that? For the record, I don't think that diagnosis of most Catholics is true, but for the ones who were loudly inserting themselves into it over the past week, it probably looked that way to bystanders. The other cost is probably to personal relationships. I know people, including friends, connected to the SSPX. I know people with strong opinions about the SSPX, and I have opinions of my own. I could loudly and assertively share those opinions, and if I did so, I'd probably damage some of those relationships. And to what great end? Would the controversy be resolved? Nope. And no matter how earnestly we debated the subject, neither of us can prove to the other that we are right because neither of us have a greater degree of authority, and because the church hasn't definitively said one way or the other what, if any, of their actions since the lifting of their excommunications are consistent with schism or any other grave offense against the communion of the church. And that's for me probably the biggest takeaway from it. It's an unresolved controversy, and it's not up to us as the average layperson to resolve unresolved controversies in the church. If and when Rome resolves it, we can and should fall in line and simply repeat whatever their judgment becomes. But for now, let's not go beyond that or our own competencies just for the sake of chattering and the feeding of controversy. At the end of the day, the SSPX is a relatively small group, and very few Catholics come into any kind of meaningful contact with them, which is why we just don't need to be inserting ourselves into that controversy as if we have a direct and immediate stake in it. So that may leave some people asking, well, when should we get involved in this controversy or others for that matter? To which I'd say, when it actually affects you or your community. For example, in my own community, we have people who drift in and out of the SSPX, which can affect the dynamics a little bit. Or maybe you have friends or family that are being drawn to the SSPX. That's when you might want to take a particular interest in the controversy in question. But if you do, address it in your community and in your relationships. Simply broadcasting your hottest opinion about it to an indiscriminate audience on social media isn't going to help those situations. Secondly, if an issue is large enough that many Catholics in many regions are affected by it, then it might make sense to address publicly if you're called to do that, which is why I do express my thoughts on certain controversies on my channel from time to time. It's because I think those controversies are widespread enough to warrant a wide-ranging conversation about it. But the SSPX is a tiny group relative to the rest of the church. In the sum total, I'd be willing to bet that most Catholics haven't even heard of them. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people will respond to this video with the accusation of hypocrisy aimed at me, because here I am talking about the SSPX. But in point of fact, this video isn't about the SSPX. It's about the chatter surrounding the SSPX. I'm not weighing in on whether I think they should be excommunicated or not, or whether consecrating new bishops is a schismatic act and what I think the consequences should be, because again, that doesn't affect most people. And I don't want to draw an inordinate amount of attention to it as if it does. But the infighting over the SSPX is widespread and something I think does warrant addressing, which is why I've made this video. At the end of the day, if you have concerns about the society and whether your association with them is a problem or not, I'd encourage you to ask your bishop, who is a competent authority on the matter. Lastly, on the off chance that someone with any kind of influence in the society is watching this, can I make an appeal to you? And I know the issues are more complicated than I'm going to make them sound here, but can I still just throw this out there? Because the SSPX has grounded the justifications for their actions on this idea that the church is in a crisis which warrants their extreme measures. And they're right about the fact that the church is in a crisis. There's no doubt about that in my mind. In today's church, in formerly very Catholic countries like France, Italy, Spain, and Canada, where I live, there are more children who are initiated into the church. They're raised in good Catholic families who end up leaving than stick around. That is an intolerable crisis, and it's unprecedented in the church's history. But we aren't acting like it. If you sit in on the agenda of a parish council meeting or a diocesan advisory committee, that crisis doesn't even begin to enter the conversation. So I appreciate that some movements and groups like the SSPX are acting like extreme measures are needed, given the circumstances. So the question should become, how do we make the necessary reforms in order to address the crisis? How do we put the appropriate amount of pressure where it needs to be applied to move the church in the right direction to stop at least the hemorrhage? Because I honestly believe that if the SSPX was counted among one of the fully integrated communities within the church, if the SSPX had a seat at the table of influence, if they were counted among our brothers and sisters in the church by most normal Catholics, I bet it could throw a lot of weight around to add pressure for the needed reforms. But as long as they even give the appearance of being outside the normal boundaries of ecclesial structures, too many people will be able to write them off as outsiders and schismatics. And that's persuasive to a lot of casual bystanders. But if you were given full faculties and jurisdiction within the church, I bet the scale of your movement would double in size overnight. And because you have a history of not bluffing when you say you're going to do something, I expect the relevant authorities would pay a lot of heed to demands for reform made by the SSPX, especially if it risked another rupture. This is why liberals have been given, or how they've been able to push so hard for their agendas without ultimate consequences. It's because the Holy See wants to avoid rupture. But since an apparent rupture already exists with the SSPX, it doesn't feel like much is lost if that rupture is widened. But if you were unambiguously fully enrolled in the life of the church in such a way that your critics couldn't write you off, I think you'd have a lot of power to pull rank and to push for, again, badly needed reforms. So for my part, instead of weighing in on what I think should happen if the SSPX proceed with these consecrations, I'm going to pray for, and to whatever degree I can, push for unity, because I think it would be amazing to see those wounds healed and to see the members of the society working for legitimate and realistic reforms from the inside. Okay, thanks for watching that. I hope that was a blessing to you, that it encouraged you and edified you in your journey with the Lord. And if it did, and if you want to support the work that we're doing as a result, which thank you so much for considering that, because we really do need your help to make this viable. Then there's a few ways you can do that. You can go to brianholdsworth.ca/help, which is obviously my website. And there's some options there. One is to just contribute through my website. The other would be to join us over on Locals, where you can interact with me and other like-minded people. You can gain access to exclusive content where we're doing live streams and I'm uploading videos and things like that. But we're also doing a secret philosophy study with a secret philosopher academic who's joining us once a month to take us through difficult texts that we want to read on our own, but we need some clarification and some guidance on that. So right now we're working through some works by St. Thomas Aquinas with him, and he's a Thomistic philosopher. So if that's interesting to you, join me on brianholdsworth.locals.com. And again, you can check out my website at brianholdsworth.ca/help.